Awesome. So, thank you for having me here. It is a pleasure. I've been looking around, obviously, throughout your Discord, and this is a really cool project and a really wonderful community you got here. So, kudos to everyone who built this. And I'm Phil. I am a photographer, filmmaker, and creative director, amongst other things. I worked a lot in the world of just communication and marketing, and in politics as well, back here. And I think, like everyone else, when these different tools started popping off, at first it was curiosity. It was just, this is a cool toy, basically. And as more we were able to explore these, I think people like me, so other artists, which I know there's a lot here, other artists and people who have experience just building visuals and storytelling, saw the real potential of these different tools. And Kaliber was one of them that, for me, I was fortunate enough to speak to the founder and just have a bit of a chat with him on his vision. Because, well, I'm a millennial, and so I was really stunned when I saw that he did something with Linkin Park. I grew up, for sure, listening to them, so it was really cool to see that Mike Shinoda, the second front member of Linkin Park, is one of the investor and advisor to Kyber. And so you can tell that they are going in a very powerful creative direction, which is why that I trusted this tool perhaps a bit more than other video tools right away. So the way I want to start it first is it's going to be just very, very simple, because before getting into the actual prompting and tool, there's some basics of just needing to understand about Kyber that are just kind of universal. And
Phil,
I'm
one
just going to start
short
sharing my screen.
interruption for myself. Is it just me or for me the screen is loading? Ah, now it's back. In the meanwhile it just was that the screen is not working, but now it's working for
I'm
me again.
I'm seeing some random lag sometimes on the video connection, but otherwise, if it start
But now
having
I
issues,
see
I'll
see
cut
your
off my
back.
own screen.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Thank you. So
Cool.
feel free to continue. Sorry.
No worries. No worries. So, I go, I don't need 420. And all good. Okay, so one of the things that, like I was saying, that I wanted to touch on before getting into just prompting as a whole, is the idea that Kyber remains a tool that requires specific inputs. And that's the reality for most AI tools out there, that if you come in with expectations of doing the heavy lifting for you, it won't work. It just won't. Because, there's a good meme going around right now about graphic designers and all of that, saying that they're safe because for AI to be actually effective, clients would need to be specific. And there's some truth in that. And it's the same thing when you're trying to create as well. So one of the key things of starting when you start with Kyber is it is very easy to get lost in the different tools, because if you think about it, when you use tools such as Midjourney, all you have is the prompt, and so it's very, very simple, and you don't have to think about it too much, meaning that all you can do is focus on your own idea, and that's it. Then the rest is done. I'll turn off my camera just now because I think that me streaming and the camera Discord is not liking this, so I'll turn off my camera for a second. So yeah, and the differences here with Kyber is what you can see is not only do I have the prompt itself, and I need to put a style, but then I can also add, not only can I just change having the starting from an image or starting from a song, and even just changing the video. So this is why that when you start with Kyber, it is going to be very important to start with an ideation process. An ideation process with Kyber looks very similar to any other thing, which is why that it's very cool when you start without an image. If you do whatever, I don't care for now. Let's do that. And whenever you start and you didn't start with a full image, well, they're going to give you frames, preview frames on whatever. And I don't want it to be too absurd. So let's do anything. All right. And we're going to cover these after. For now, I just want to make sure that we cover this part, just to make sure that you understand this is quite important. In the same way that if you have used other tools, such as Midjourney for image creating, same as, and of course now Kaliber is having issues. I can't see my previews. But the point I'm trying to make is the same. So like if you've used Kaliber, when you reach that step that I was in, you're gonna get preview frames, and take your time iterating with those. Take your time tweaking a bit that prompt, tweaking a bit the subject or the style or whatever, because it is not an exact science, and it is worth it. Just taking your time to make sure that it is in the right direction, because compared to I would say, an image, when you're just generating an image, you're not going to be able to see the full picture, no pun intended, until you actually run the video. So even though you can say it, you want it in a certain direction, and you have some elements in your prompts trying to guide it, well, once it starts rendering and when it starts generating, how it might turn out, there are some things that are going to be unexpected, and you may not have all the control you would have wanted. So that's why that taking time and making sure that your preview frame and how you saw it matches your intention, which is the second part I want to get to. So one of the different things to once you have a bit of an ideation and you start to have some ideas, well, it's important to stick to your idea. So one example I want to give you for that, and which is a very simple component, but so once you have something what you want and you know what the vibe that it's supposed to be, well, all of the other settings must also match. What I mean by that is, for example, here. So this was a very simple idea of just overhead of a spiral staircase leaning down. And this probably would not have worked as much if I hadn't put the camera to rotate. It feels simple, it feels obvious, but that one is a very simple execution of that idea, meaning that, of course, I have a circular movement, so I'll just make the camera follow that, and it just adds to the story that it's trying to go. But applying that to all of the other settings are going to be extremely important, because like I said, in Kaliber, you don't have the full control that you would have with an image, perhaps, because, well, you can't see the full picture until it's actually done. So another way to do the other things to think and is same thing with your aspect ratio, same thing with the time. So the one way to go and think about those, we're going to do it together. If you begin with an image, the way you're going to create is going to be a bit different than if you were just using a prompt. Same thing if you were just transforming a video. If we use an image, let's say that I'm going to use one of my Midjourney images for the sake of that example. Why not? Okay, so this was made with Midjourney. So the two ways to go about it. Naturally, it is for sure better to try to describe in the same way that you made that image happen. In that case, unfortunately, that was a Midjourney test using only emojis. But on normal time, I would literally paste my prompt, at least part of it, that I use for Midjourney to keep it in Kaliber, just so I have some consistency if I'm trying to do the image upload thing. And then in terms of the style, to be honest, I don't really like the buttons. They're a good starting point if you just want to test it and it's the first time using a tool like Kaliber. they're, they give you a good starting point or whatever, but I found that it is sometimes perhaps too literal when you include things like taken on film or whatever, or vintage. Like, for instance, one of my issues that I had, and I hope that I'm still streaming the right one. Yeah, okay. So one of the issues that I had, which was a very simple thing. Oh, I might have deleted it. Yeah, I think I deleted it. Okay, so I was trying to make this thing here. And it was just a very simple prompt, simple Alleluia type thing. And now, yeah, okay, Kaliber is having issues. I'll show you just a preview. You understand what I'm trying to do. So I was trying to do this little scene of this woman right here, just, broken Alleluia. And, okay, that's that one. Well, in that one here, you can see that, well, a literal camera appeared, because when I said that I wanted in the style of conceptual photography and shot on Kodak Portra 400, well, it took it quite literally. Now the model is holding a camera, which is not exactly what I wanted. But I've found that Kaliber is a bit like that so far. So I think when you are indeed in the process of creating your own video here, just pay that in mind, that's why, like, take time to perhaps not use the shot on whatever as you would do on other generative AIs, but go more in the mood. So yes, you can take the photo cinematic, these can stay here, but I would probably remove that just because I don't want it to be taken literally as well. Private press as well is meh. It's just meh. And yeah, and again, going off the intention, if you are using something as a starting point, well, make sure to match it a bit. So in that one, you can tell that I would say it's more of a 3D illustration or like rendering type. But I think because of the type of the colors and whatever, it could be changed into an oil painting or whatever. So make sure you match and it makes sense of the style. Because otherwise, yeah, it'll show that it's kind of I couldn't say that. It's going to be like a cheap tool. Because the point and the goal when using something like that, at least for me, is I want it to enhance whatever I'm trying to do. I don't want it to replace. I don't want it to just say, hey, that was neat. Ideally, I want something that will elevate what I'm trying to do. So in this one here, we can probably use the other one that I've used before, which is probably here. Yeah, so usually I have one. Yeah, I'll copy that. Yeah, so I have a bit of a idea of what I usually use when I'm trying to make something that's just more real. But we'll see how it turns out while we do something else. Okay, so pretty simple. Actually, leaves out of his. I think we can add that she's in a pond. Like, to me, I think it could be like, it doesn't show, but I think she could be like lying in a pond. Lying in a pond. And perhaps taken from above. From above. Can't write. All right, we'll try these. See how it goes. Okay. Now again, when you think about the intention, so you have something that's kind of close up ish, and anytime it's a person, and there's also make sure you go with what you like. But to me, if I'm working with a person, it is a bit weird if I zoom in on someone. So just bear that in mind, that it might look weird because you don't, again, have a full control of how it's going to actually show up. You don't know where it's going to zoom, and it might make things look weird. So again, if you're working with a human subject, and especially in that case where the frame is really close on it, pay in mind that, yeah, this is how am I going to work with this? So the intention for this one, I think that knowing that I don't want initially to zoom in, I can for sure make a zoom out. It'll for sure be okay. It'll probably create new part, and that's the maybe the other concern would be how it's going to create it and what it's going to do. So in one of those, we can probably try to zoom out, but otherwise, a direction might actually be good. So if we either go up or go down, or left or right, it could actually be interesting to see if it continues the pond or continues the background and doesn't continue with the person. Yeah, so I think that's the thing. And again, if you're going to use that, which is making sure that the initial image is shown in the first frame, that's where that you're prompting and your intentions behind what you're trying to do might need to be a bit more precise. Simply because, well, if you're gonna show it in the first thing, you want it to feel connected. You want it to make sense, basically. That you don't want the person watching it to feel that this is a break of whatever I was seeing, or that it is like a drawing transition. That like if I were to use that and completely change the subject and or have my style to be really like I don't know, like Lego like or blocky or whatever, something a bit more crazy. If I show my image here in the first frame, it's gonna look weird. It'll be a very drawing transition. So if you're gonna show the initial image, make sure that everything else makes sense towards that. You want it to feel connected, and that's where you then get to evolve. I think in using image prompts, this is where this tool is the most important, because again, it's going to use that as a starting point and expand. And if you are making it a bit crazier, meaning that 10 is going to get more chaotic and it's going to change a lot more, 1 meaning that basically nothing will change. To be honest, I think I don't have the one that I did, but truly, if you leave it at 1, it's more of a, I'm going to say that, it's more of a vibrating picture almost, because not a lot happens. So I think for very specific uses, like if you are already using kind of an illustration that's already, I would say, chaotic and it like there's a lot going on, the 1 could work for a certain situation, but for the most part, the 1 is, yeah, quite low. So again, if I know that I'm going to have a human subject in mind, I like to leave it a bit lower, because again, if you leave it a bit too high and there's a human subject, it might twist things weirdly, but if that's what you're going for, I mean, go for it. No worries. But yeah, just in terms of like keeping my intention of this whole thing was just having perhaps more changes of like the environment around her. So I'll leave it a bit lower. 4 or 5 has been nice. I'm just gonna try 4, and we're gonna do 10 just for the sake of this thing. And we're gonna see a preview. Hopefully, Kaliber doesn't crash again. That'd be nice. Come on, you got this. And yeah, the other one afterwards I'm going to be able to show you is exploring the storytelling that Kaliber can offer. So, of course, if you're going to use your own content, a little clip you shot of yourself or whatever, something iPhone based, and you just apply the transform tool that we're going to show you after to Kaliber, it'll work well, absolutely. But one of the important things that we're going to be able to see is making sure that it brings it further. So I don't know if you saw any on TikTok or any apps like that of just making a transition with it intentionally. That works amazingly. So when you're going to be shooting and preparing for a little clip or whatever, if you go with the mindset that you're gonna use Kaliber later on to jump or make a transition, I think it's gonna work perfectly. One of the cool things that I haven't seen yet that I'm actually trying to build, maybe, and just give it a try, is making. Oh no, my connection seems to be meh. Okay, I'll turn the camera off again.
But I
Yeah,
still
so
I
one of
still
the
hear
cool
you,
things
so all fine.
that I really would like to see is basically having Kyber at the center of the idea. So I don't know if any of you guys played Super Mario 64, but just having the idea of jumping into a painting and that becoming your world or whatever. I Kyber could be really really good with this. So if you're starting and you make those a bit of a instant transition of you running or jumping to a door or whatever, and as you pass through the door, well, it becomes that stylized version using Kyber. So that's why, like, once you have a good story, you have a good idea, Kyber can be very powerful, but it won't be on its own. So yeah, I would really love to see that, actually, now that I mentioned it.
Phil,
Okay,
one question from my side.
cool. So now we have the preview.
You hear me?
They look pretty goddamn similar. Let's be honest here. They look pretty really similar. Which one do we like more? I think perhaps this one. Maybe. Or what are we thinking? Because they all look very alike. Okay, I think this. Okay, the bottom ones look better in terms of keeping the shape of her collarbones afterwards, because the other ones, there were like already things happening. So let's go with one of these. So it's covering the eye a bit more. All right, this one. I'm sticking with this one. Okay. Sounds good. Dope. And now I'll go back to my videos to show you the other one that I wanted to talk about. And hopefully it still streams to the right one. Yes, it does. Cool. So, on the touch of storytelling, again, as I said at the very beginning, there are some things going to be universal and just basic for every AI tool, that if you write a good prompt or perhaps more of a good story, a good idea, it'll work better. So you can just describe a scene, which this was done using one of my own pictures as the starting point, and just still describing it. And it looks cool, like, for sure. I would probably post that on a reel or whatever, because it looks neat. But one that worked the best was having describing an emotion, describing something happening. And actually, I have it on my desktop. I'll just use on my desktop instead of streaming it as well, so it doesn't crash Kaliber again. Okay, I'll change what I'm streaming. Give me a second. So yes, so having more of a in your language, something that's also just more intentional, will also just yield better result. In that sense, okay, I'm still working. Good. So in that sense, that's what we did for this one. So you can see there's more of an evolution. There is a clear little glimpse of a story happening. Because it makes more sense. So that thing was using, the beginning was a prompt that I already used for Midjourney, and which was a stunning redhead woman in a lush forest, and just like more describing. But the thing that really made it work more, and I'll go back to Kyber, just all right. And the thing that really, really made it just work better was including the emotion of it, and including her, how she feels, basically. And it was very simple. Let me just open it. Yeah. So instead of just having the environment, which is surrounded by vibrant foliage and I also included her eyes fixate on a small stream, but finding no solace, she sighs heavily and disappears into the background. So that little inclusion made a world of difference on the result that it gave me. because it had something to go on. It had something about perhaps the evolution of said video of where it's trying to go. So making sure you include those as well, especially for Kaliber, is going to be extremely important. Like I would say that the difference in language and perhaps how you would prompt when it comes to Kaliber versus image tools. Image tools, you want to rather go with the mood and atmosphere, but in Kaliber, I would rather go with movement and intentions of if there is a model in your scene, intention of that model, simply because it's moving. And so if Kaliber doesn't know where it's supposed to go, it's going to apply it more literally rather than try to evolve the scene. So that one was really cool for that. And let's check up again on the one we just made. Hopefully it's done. All right. It is. Let me confirm if you can just see. Yes. Okay, cool. Make sure you can see. Okay, so this is what we just did together. See, so I think at 4, this works perfectly. So at 4, you can see that my model stayed kind of the same, good enough that like the eyes were basically the same, and she gets angry. I don't know what I did, but she's angry at me apparently. And the rest just formed around her, which is exactly what I wanted. So, I don't know why the 2 little leaves. Okay, the little golden leaves next to her head are kind of funny. Here, starting here, they just stay there. Okay, that's the only artifact, but apart from that, it looks awesome. And yeah, I think again, when I was saying earlier, on that case here, I'm happy with it. But if you are seeing that it might not have been exactly, go back here. Just open your prompt editor and modify things, which is why that I prefer to start with a smaller length of a video. So I would start with like, a 5 to 10 second, just so I can see if the idea I had was right in terms of like zooming out for that, and it was. But I could have tested something else and it might have not worked. And it's much better to just make more iterations, do a 5-second test, and once you know it's the right angle, it's the right intention, then okay, now make it a bit longer, and then you can even add music or whatever. Which is the other one that I wanted to touch on, and perhaps the one that can explain the idea of having the storytelling and the intention and ideation coming together, which was a little starship. Let me again share the desktop instead of Kaliber. All right. So this one here. Let me confirm. I don't know if you have a chat. Give me a second.
Yeah, there's
let me confirm do you hear sound? I'm not sure if you can hear sound.
Do you hear me right?
If you can.
Hello? Hello?
Let me confirm that. Hopefully you can. Yeah, I confirmed to that for me, Jero. Thank you so much. I'll put it back just for confirming if you can see it. All right, were you able to hear sound?
No, there's no sound.
If you can't, that's unfortunate. But if you can, which I think you can, once you pick this one up, there are a few things happening. So this one was also using a prompt that I made for Midjourney. I did not use the image as a starting point.
Sorry, Phil, there was no sound. Did you hear it?
There was no sound?
No, there was no sound.
Okay,
sorry, my microphone was muted when I was speaking. So
okay. Yeah. There was literally no sound on your end.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
No worries. Okay. Source? No. That's possible. Let me try that. That would probably make sense. That makes sense. So then I'll try it with Kaliber.
Or maybe if it's possible to share the tab. I'm not sure if this is well possible. But then it should work with the sound.
So now I've shared that. Let me confirm if there is sound here.
Yep, now we have sound.
There's sound?
Yep, we had sound.
Yay, we did it. Okay, cool. So, as I was saying, so this one was using a similar prompt that I used in Midjourney, which was just, rocket launches with a pronounced rumble during the night. Just, little rocket launch scene. And a few things happening that make this come together so well. So I'll watch it once with you, and then I'll go over why.
But now we just see the empty folder, not the picture itself.
Okay. So do you see it now?
I still see the folder.
God damn it. Okay, give me a second.
Yeah, no problem. Fine.
I'll try it on. The thing is, honestly, it's like Kaliber is having issues today. So I'll try it still on my Kaliber account, but it was having issues earlier. Hopefully it just loads and works with me. That would be nice. So I'll load it up. Okay. Okay. Should good. It loaded up. I didn't ask you to run, Kaliber, though.
Now perfect.
Okay.
Now we see it and the sound is perfect. Cool.
Awesome. Good. So, let's go. So, this one was just worked amazingly. It was really, really fun when I got it out. And the reason that this one works so well, and I also put it on TikTok later, and it did great numbers. And the reason that I think this one works so well is, sure, the prompt was, I think, good. Like, the subject is simple enough that there's creativity for Kaliber to use, and that here in terms of the style, just very classic, nothing crazy. What makes it work is all of my settings coming together, meaning that if I have a rocket launch, I know that I want rumble and something powerful, and it's in movement because I know that the rocket is already going. Well, of course, I need it to move toward where the rocket is going, to have more impact and make you feel like you're following the action as well. So that was the first key thing that worked here. The other thing was the music, and including the music. I think that's the part again that are just fundamentals to making it work, which is I'm also a professional editor, so part of my skills include knowing what right music to use, even if all the clients in the world will always come back when music changes. There are moments you have to say no because it's just the right one. And the only real way to really measure that is just having taste, developing your taste, developing your ear, and understanding, taking a moment to figure out why. And for that instance, for this one, we can do it together. The reason why it works compared to perhaps another one that I could have tried is the energy. So matches exactly the same. It is an appropriate type of song if you think about anything with a lot of energy and epic and whatever. This song conveys that. The other thing is it has a nice build up here. Making you feel that in terms of the storytelling of that little clip, you understand that when the beat drops for real and the lines start appearing and it moves faster, you understand that the rocket is launched. Now it's going. And so these two things come together, make it just work really, really well. And that's just being able to see where a song can bring something together and just exploring what works. So depending on whatever tool you use for music, whether it's this one was from Epidemic Sound, if you've any other library like that, take a moment to just sit there and listen to it and try to imagine the scenes that could happen. It's an exercise I do a lot with just regular music as well, meaning that I'm on Spotify and I'm just listening to my music and just writing down in your notes app what you see, the colors, the vibe, what's the energy that you think this song is giving, and building
Phil?
off of that.
There there's two questions. Which first one was if you also had some issues with Kaliber last time, because Evo has raised it that I think, I'm not sure, I don't use Kaliber, but she has wrote that Kaliber has redesigned their website, and since then they have a lot of trouble. I think you faced same issues, right?
Yeah. There's they just really I think it was one of the two things that's happening. I did talk to the owner, and they hired a lot of engineers to rebuild the UX and UI and the experience. But they were having issues keeping the same optimization they were able to make using their servers in terms of like building together the front facing and what's happening in the back end. They figured out that there was some issues of just making sure that things were still optimized, meaning that once you use the website, it's like still heavy, meaning that it's still like it's having a hard time connecting to its back end to before. So that's a bit of that. The other thing you can even the other issues. That's why that even I think right now it's going to take a bit of a moment to adapt, which is it's fine. They hired a lot of people, so I think it was a few days ago that they launched that new version actually. So you're gonna have some issues, and it's fine.
Yeah. I think it's also called as a beta, right? It's not like the
it is. It is technically still a beta. Yeah. It's technically still a beta, but it is incredibly powerful for a beta.
Yeah, definitely.
So
yeah.
So cool. Yeah, I'm not worried about the issues in long term.
Yeah.
But I think it's why that not only for ideation, but you working with the tool. Just, start small. Start with like a few seconds clip just to have an idea before asking it too much, because otherwise you might get frustrated with having those little issues that will rise up, and it's fine. So make sure that's what I think, especially when you have a platform that's still in beta, working on your fundamental skills are going to be much more important than the tool itself, because the tool is rather simple. So if you are able to generate and create beautiful storytelling that matches the intention, that's going to go way beyond the tool, and you're going to be far ahead anyone else using the tool.
Okay, cool. And the second question was from Angie Girl. She asked, how did you find this track? So do you have specific sites where you're looking for soundtracks, or yeah?
Yeah, I have a few. Naturally, I think depending on what you're trying to do, but like a very good one for anyone on YouTube especially has been using for years. It's called NCS, which is No Copyright Music, which is literally a record label that is doing no copyright music. That's pretty damn simple. If you actually, that picture here, am I still sharing my screen properly?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I see it.
So that guy here, for some of you who listen to electronic music, you might recognize him. This is Alan Walker. He made a very, very popular song, and yeah, they have an amazing library of mostly electronic. And you can go from very hard hitting stuff like a bit more dubstep, and it can also be very smooth trance and a bit just lo-fi a bit, but all of this is 100% no copyright to all of that. So if you want to create with Kaliber and post it on somewhere else, you'll be fine. You won't get copyright striked for anything.
Cool.
So that's a big one. That's for electronic specifically. Otherwise, I really like Epidemic Sound. as well for this one has a bit more. So instead of just having electronic, it has a ton of different things. And the pricing is honestly pretty good, especially if you for a personal license. For me, I've used it for a long time because I need it for commercial work as well. But for just a personal one, $9 a month in US, it's pretty good. It works really well. 15 if you do it monthly instead of yearly, but still 15 you have access to a lot of music. Sorry, and having this on your toolbelt is just really fun to explore just your little thing. You can also monetize it on one channel if you also a YouTuber and you intend to use your work on YouTube. That's fine. You can also monetize songs using Epidemic Sound, and yeah, these two honestly you can cover a lot of ground. And I would suggest that if you do get a subscription and you want to use a song or whatever, just take a moment to explore and again do that exercise of open a notes app, whether it's physical or digital, and just take a moment to write down what you think is happening, what's the mood, what's the style, what's the energy and whatnot, and just practice using music as a good inspiration to figure out intentions, and then you can apply that without music for other projects because you all have known how to develop that way of thinking and interacting with your prompts. So I think that works really well. And otherwise, honestly, if you're going to use personal, meaning that like if you just want to create for yourself, you're not going to post it, use YouTube. Like you can just use YouTube and extract the song from a YouTube video that you like. But if you have any intention of posting it anywhere, use one of these two that I showed you. They work really well. I'm not sponsored by any, just ones that I use myself.
Cool. Then thank you for the summary and as well for the tips regarding the music.
Yeah, it's honestly like Kaliber is still as an infant stage. They just added the ability to transform as well as using a storyboard. So it's still very new, and even having the new thing as upscale is like you can tell this is gonna go in a really really good place. So I would say that like Kaliber, taking a moment to add it to your toolbox is going to be very, very good. And yeah, to continue what I just said, so they also added this, which is that for a bit more credits, meaning that like 3, which is not that much, to upscale it to 1080p or 4K. Honestly, for most anything you're going to post it anywhere, 1080p is more than fine. And it does make a good difference. I don't know. I don't want to. I'm going to remove this so I can show you. So this one was upgraded to 1080p. Oh, I'll change my stream settings. Otherwise, you won't actually see it. Okay. Yeah. So this one. Yeah, this one. So this one was upgraded to 4K, I think. And you can see that the quality of the lines is it's really good. Like that stands up really well. And it kind of makes a difference. So once again, don't go crazy until you know exactly where you're going for. And I think that's the other one that I put on. Yeah, that's the other one I upscaled. So on this one, you can see like the details are really nice. And yeah, just having the ability to play with that tool is going to be important because there is still a lot of things that you can't control as fine-tuned as you would other stuff. So I would say take a moment for that. And if anyone has other questions, it would be awesome.
Cool. Thank you, Phil. There is one more question. How did you make the sea scene? So I think it was one of the last one you showed us.
Yeah, so the little C, again, it was using a starting point of my own prompt slash. So actually, specifically this one, I used the describe function of Midjourney, starting from a real picture that I took. Actually, let me stream again. Actually, no, I'll find it first. Which is from a real picture that I shot a while back. Let me just find it. Yeah, I got it. Okay. So let me stream again. Screen. Yeah. Okay. So this was a picture that I shot up north from where I live. And I basically used that picture in Midjourney, asked it to describe it. And the reason I did that instead of just using my own words, it's simply because one of the interesting things that using the describe function of Midjourney does, other than helping you describe and giving you a starting point, it also gives you the opportunity to understand how these language models talk, meaning that the way that you would describe it might be good. Like, it might be a really good way to describe it, but it just might not be how this AI understands that scene. So it's just a really cool way to apply it. And for this one, I use two things. There's a tool called Shotis, that's from another Discord community, which is a tool basically to you give it a 1 sentence or 2 sentence idea or story, and it'll generate the tags and as well as kind of the style and whatnot. And yeah, so I use a combination of Midjourney Describe and that generation here. Like, for instance, the thing that it gave me more that I perhaps would not have included right away was the fact that it was isolated. That was Midjourney that added that perhaps it helped keep the vibe that I wanted a bit more. So combining these two works really well. And again, having for this one the zoom out worked really well, simply because it adds to that expanse and vastness of the story that's happening right here. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you a lot, Phil. And there was one more question from Evo. She asked, we are planning to Creative Commons remix release some of our Kaliber footage. How do the rest of you handle attribution and describing your workflow for publishing? If there's some insights to share.
What do you mean by publishing? Do you mean in terms of like how to better present it to, for example, if you were to tweet it to talk about the process, or whether is that what you're asking?
Maybe Evo, you can as well come to the stage if you want. Let me. Then yeah. Should I just gave you the authorization, Evo? You should get accepted. At least I get the message. If in case it doesn't,
shows her hand is up.
Yeah. So that means I have invited her to speak. Even in case you can't join the stage, feel free to to write it in the chat box. Yeah, she's typing.
No worries.
Yeah, sometimes Discord is a bit weird. But yeah, just wait a few seconds.
Where would it be?
Sorry? I just said that Discord.
Where is she writing?
It just said that Discord sometimes is a little bit weird, and she is adding in the chat. You see it in the top right corner, chat, short chat, and then you see the.
Okay, for the event. Okay.
Yeah,
the chat
in
for
the event.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the event is now in chat.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, Yeah. Okay. So I just saw it. Okay. So for the attribution specific on that image, well, um, if you mean just with Kyber itself, meaning that like the fact that you use Kyber for creation, that in itself is up to you. Meaning that there is no requirement in terms of mentioning Kyber as part of the creation. At least if you're a paying member, meaning that there used to be a free trial, like a free version of Kyber. They removed it because they were having issues with attributing the resources, server resources, and server times between paying members and free members. So yeah, all right. Hey, hello, Hivo.
Now she's on stage. You on mute, but now it seems good.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I had to move to a different machine. My mobile wasn't going to do it. Thank you for helping to address this. I tried to tackle this in my book, and I realized that with video and co-authored content, some people go through and list every tool they've used along the way when they're, releasing it or putting it out for GitHub and Creative Commons remix. I was just curious how other people are managing the attribution.
I mean, I like you making sure that it's presented, but it's from a like. There's no necessity, was what I'm trying to say though. Like there is no like necessity to do it in terms of just like legally, but it sure helps make sure that things make more sense if you're trying to put in Creative Commons, because like Kyber is going to change a lot of stuff that you might not have control. I think the only gray area specifically with Kyber is using their the one that they made with Linkin Park. So the one that's like the style version that they did for which when you go to create video and I don't know, blah 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 blah. Okay, so yeah, the ones that are style collection from Lost, Intergalactic, Meteora, Graffiti, these I would have to ask my friend who's one of the founders of Kyber, because honestly I haven't been able to find it directly on their website on attributions for these models, because the other ones are yours in the same way that Midjourney works or other tools like that.
Right.
If you wrote it, it's yours. But
Right.
those,
So if I'm using that word intergalactic in a prompt, I definitely want to know if it's connected to some other.
if you use just Intergalactic for itself, it's fine. It's more if you use the button, like I'll stream it again.
Oh no, I don't do it that way. I prompt very complex things, but I will include
Awesome.
a
So
word
that if you do
like-
that, you should be fine. Yeah. If you
that's
do that,
what
you
I
should be fine.
figured. Okay, cool. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm about to go and speak at a television conference where there are
Nice.
definitely people in the industry who want you to articulate every step of how you do something.
Yeah.
And part of this is, management with guilds and networks and attribution across
Absolutely.
media types.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
So I think for Kyber you're fine as long as you don't use the buttons right there of like applying the style that was made for Linkin Park.
Got it. And I would love to talk to someone at Kyber down the road to really think about those IP and relationships with other artists.
Absolutely, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Can you
Phil,
give
where are
me
you
your,
based?
I'm based in Montreal, Canada. But you can give me your email or something in chat, and I can talk to my friend who's at Kyber, because I think it's a very important thing, especially once you're gonna. AI and attribution is it's a much needed rework.
It is, and we're about to release 10 music videos where we're using their tools pretty extensively. So I want to be super transparent with all the tool makers as well as with the public. So
That's
thanks.
awesome.
Really appreciate your thoughtfulness in this workshop, and Garo, thanks for organizing.
You're welcome, and thank you, Ivo, for your questions. And Phil, one last question by myself, and then we could wrap it up. I just see that a lot of artists are chaining different AI tools, and you in our workshop as well showed a little bit that your starting point is Midjourney, then you put the same prompts into into Kaliber. And what is there? Do you think Kaliber tries to develop like something like Runway? Because I think the functionalities are kind of similar, but I think Runway is way more focused on video. But I see the direction of Kaliber that they as well want to go in this direction, right? But it's just an assumption from me. What do you think about it?
They definitely are. I think that one key difference is you can think about Kaliber versus Runway. I think Runway for me, at least the direction that they're going for, Runway is trying to push the, how can I say that? They're trying to work a lot more with existing footage, and or when it comes to the Model 2, which is the ability to text a video, Runway are going a direction that I think want to take more of a professional looking approach, while as Kaliber to me feels a bit more creative and artistic, which is why I prefer Kaliber so far. I think Runway is perhaps often too literal to me, and just too much of a filter almost, and I don't really like that. Compared to Kaliber, for me, is my experience with Kaliber has been just better in terms of creating stuff that feels a bit more unique and feels, I guess, more alive. I think even Evo can probably see that when using music videos. It's just the language model they're using to me just feels better for what I'm trying to accomplish most of the time. And again, as I mentioned, like combining different tools together often makes things just a bit better because you've taken your time to elevate your idea a bit further than if you just started right away in Kaliber. Because you have to remember that Kaliber will not, at least for now, isn't powerful enough to really give it like pure intentions right away. So working those as you go and using other tools to see if your words are right, basically, helps with bringing it together. Otherwise, I think the way that Kaliber has been going for, and I've been able, again, to talk, fortunately, to one of my friends who's at Kaliber, they really want to build more of a studio vibe, meaning that they want it to become more of a set of tools that work together and eventually adding a lot more features. But their goal is really for someone to be able to use Kaliber as a creative directing tool almost, which I prefer, which I really like that direction. Even as you can tell with the new changes they made, you can tell that they're going in terms of giving you more options and more directions in terms of the generative part, which I really like more. And they keep a very, very stylized, a bit more, which I think, like, to make it a bit clearer, if any of you have used a tool, the other generative image tools, such as the one from OpenAI, DALL-E, versus Midjourney, it's this kind of the same. For me, Runway feels more like DALL-E, which is like, it's really good, but it's not as creative as Kaliber is, simply put,
Cool.
which is the same thing that Midjourney happens, there's a look and feel that Kaliber is just better, in my opinion.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for your summary regarding that. And I think it would be as well really beneficial for us if you can make it connect to the Kaliber contact of you, because I think Kaliber could be as well a really cool tool for our artists for the creation of White Mirror Season 1. So yeah, if this is something you can make happen, it would be really beneficial.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely. I think they're also looking to expand, because their focus for the first months of their tool was making sure the server don't crash.
Yeah.
And it was that part was already a lot, because they under anticipated how much visibility they would get from announcing they work with Linkin Park. So now that that's out and they've rebranded and more things are coming out, I know he was talking about expanding the community aspect of Kaliber, which
Really
I
cool.
think it would be a great timing for y'all to get into it.
Cool. Then thank you again. Thanks a lot, Phil. It was really, really interesting. And thank you as well to the audience for joining and for the interesting questions. So, thank you again, and everyone have a lovely day, and see you soon. Bye,
Well,
Phil.
thank you a lot for having me. It was amazing.
Thank you. Bye.